As an academy owner, you work hard to build trust with your students, their parents, and your community. But trust isn't something you claim, it's something you prove and earn. That's where Academy Safe comes in. We help academies like yours stand out with verified safety standards. Background checks for all staff, U.S. Center for Safe Sport certification, concussion training, defibrillators on site, CPR, first aid and AED certification, security cameras, rank and lineage checks, and verification of business insurance. Join the trusted martial arts registry that's redefining safety throughout North America. Lead by example. Show parents you're accredited with Academy Safe.
Hello, and welcome to My Empty Hands, a podcast about the martial arts, typically focused on Kempo. As always, I am Reggie Darden, and I have another wonderful guest with me today, Mr. Rob Hazelwood, and we are going to talk some Kempo, get into his story, and whatever other rat holes that we get onto. I always kind of start things off by saying that I currently train in multiple martial arts at this point, American Kempo, Hapkido, Taekwondo. I have done Taekwondo and some boxing. I also do Capoeira, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Muay Thai. And I think that's, I think I've covered them all, but we'll figure that out if I missed any as we go along. And yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we are going to turn things over to our wonderful guest here, and tell us how did the martial arts find you? How did Kempo find you? Where did it all start? And then we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, yeah, I think it's a long time ago, but I think I was in the Marine Corps, and we did a kind of a form of martial arts training in boot camp, and I think that got me interested in it, and I did that for quite a while. And then later, probably because of the Karate Kid movies or something, and watched a lot of kung fu movies when I was stationed overseas. And so then I took some lessons with a local studio. That was kind of I can't even remember it. It was just a local guy. And anyway, I didn't like it too much. It seemed real artificial and not practical, so I only did a couple lessons. And then later, I was in the Marine Corps still, and I was looking for something to train in. And so I had a friend, and he said, "Oh, well, you need to do Kempo because it's more practical, it's more combat oriented. No, forget all those I don't want to say other ones, but anyway." So I looked for a Kempo school around my area, and the closest one happened to be Rick Fowler, and he'd been there a long time. A student of Huck Planis. And anyway, so I started taking lessons with Rick, and for a number of years actually. And then I started, I like to branch out a little bit, kind of like what you do, and I went to some camps with Jeff Speakman, and so anyway, what I discovered was there was a lot more to Kempo than what was in the curriculum I was doing. And so traveling like that, I started meeting some other Kempo seniors, and originally Huck Planis and I got together, and I said, and since he had been Rick's instructor too, I asked I got permission to do that with from Rick, and so then I started training with Huck privately, and I brought him in. No, for about 5 or 6 years we trained together, and so he filled in a lot of gaps and things that was missing. So anyway, I did that, and then as time went by, I was training with Lee Woodlake a little bit and some other people. And so I met John Sepulveda at one of the camps in Vegas, and I liked what he was doing. And so I asked him if we could get together and do some training. And so they sent some people in to my school, and we did a kind of a seminar thing. And they decided that we would be acceptable to join their organization. And so that's been over 25 years now. I've been with John Sepulveda as my main instructor. And then kind of like you, I did some jiu-jitsu training and knife fighting and things like that. Learned private security. I started training security officers. I got licensed by the state as an instructor, also a handgun instructor for the state of Texas. And so anyway, I'm kind of busy with all that stuff, and I still keep training all the time and classes, every week. So that's kind of how I've got where I am today.
Very nice, very nice. So you, it's very cool that you got started with kind of the Kempo royalty kind of right off the bat. I mean, of course, Huck Planis is will certainly be hugely missed in the Kempo world and in the martial arts world. But getting started with him and then being connected with John Sepulveda is definitely definitely a big deal, and he's a wonderful teacher, and it's been just really exciting to kind of see what he's doing, and I've had a chance to work with him a little bit through you having him up here. So that's pretty exciting. So going back to kind of the earlier your earlier training, uh, was there any kind of specific the kind of the hook that got you to stick with Kempo? Was there anything that particularly stuck out about training in Kempo that made you want to stay with it?
Mm. Well, I think the initial advice I got was pretty good because it was a very practical, combat-oriented art, which I liked from the Marine Corps, and I felt like there's a lot of good systems out there. Everybody has something to offer, and I'd go to a lot of camps, and I trained with Benny Urquidez and Gene LaBelle and Danny Inosanto, and you get in with a lot of people like that, and you're always going to learn something. The Scientific Knife Fighting Congress, I did a lot of training with them, and Screama, and so you learn something from everybody, but Kempo teaches the why of everything, and so you can analyze. Okay, this is really good, or maybe that's not so good, and but you still need to be exposed to a lot of people. Bob White, of course, is a great instructor, and so by going to a lot of these events, you get even the Kaiju Kempo camp, Gathering of Eagles I went to, you get something from everybody. And but I think Kempo is a great foundation. I like to tell my students, if you do Kempo, everything else is easy because you already know motion and logic and physics and things like that. It makes it easy to add to your library.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. So now, just looking at well, I guess let's kind of honor Mr. Planis a little bit. And do you have anything that you'd like to share that maybe stood out about teaching with him, or any kind of particular lessons that you got from him that maybe you wanted to share?
As far as Mr. Sepulveda, or
We'll start with Mr. Planis, and
okay.
then we'll go to.
Oh well, Huck was very big on power principles and physics and all that. But as far as forms, and a lot of people don't like to do forms anymore, but they teach you so much, and that was Huck's thing. He was really uh, I don't think anybody knows more about forms, details about forms, and you learn all these things that were principles that maybe don't get taught in an everyday class. And so I look back on the time with Huck as a very great foundation for everything else that I've done. Um, and I don't think he was just a he knew about so many things. He could tell you about Kempo. He could do Eskrima. He knew about guns. He knew about knives. He made knives. He designed knives. He was just a knowledgeable person. Um, so that's what my memories of him.
Gotcha. And so now let's maybe look at kind of in contrast, comparison contrast to working with Mr. Sepulveda. Uh, the I would assume that they have different teaching styles, or kind of how was the kind of transition to being under Mr. Sepulveda?
Yeah, well, that was Huck was never a people person, and uh, students didn't really like him too much because he was a negative type teacher. Okay, let me put it that way. And you have a black belt test, and after the test, he'd tell you all the things that were wrong with it, and you know, person need to go back and work on star, blocking set one, and things like that. And so he wasn't a people person, I guess I would say. And then Mr. Sepulveda was the opposite. He would bring out the best in people. He always had compliments to say, not false compliments. He liked to say, "I won't lie to you. If you're not good, I'll tell you that. If you are, I'll tell you that too." And so the students liked that he was a positive type teacher. And he had all the knowledge, and he's been doing it 60 years. Um, but just a different teaching style. And he's built this huge organization of schools all over the world, and he's sought after because of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I really really enjoyed his seminar, and gives you a lot of things to think about, and kind of work in different angles. I really like that it's not uh, it wasn't so much sticking with, oh well, this is how we do it in the book, this is how we do the techniques in the book. And we had the freedom to kind of explore the techniques. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was that we weren't just doing uh okay, well, Kempo is known for just really beating down people, and really taking them out. And he was saying that, yeah, not all the time do we need to beat someone down into the ground. Sometimes we need to be a little less, I guess, for lack of a better term, a little less violent. And we can subdue someone, and take someone out without having to beat them to a complete a complete bloody pulp. And so it was nice to be able to work with that. And then uh, it also warmed my cross training heart, in that we were mixing in some joint locks and things with a little bit of kind of jujitsu stuff. And So that was nice. So going back in your journey, was there any competing in your time there? Do,
It's we're not really known for that so much because it's just like UFC. Everything in there that's not allowed is the Kempo system. It's kind of funny, but I think I went to one or two tournaments way back years ago, and I didn't care for the tournaments primarily because there was so many restrictions on things you could do and things I was wanting to do, and like, well, okay, I can't do Kempo basically, and there is some of that tournament attitude, and if they're having the tournament, a lot of times the judging's not that great or it's pretty biased, and so I don't know, it didn't appeal to me, I guess. It wasn't real, and so I didn't do that. Um, and I think because like it being in the service, and I think a lot of martial arts instructors that are out there that don't have that background, now they maybe law enforcement, but the military, especially the Marine Corps, is all about combat. It's not about tapping out or getting a belt or getting a trophy, you know. And so I felt like that's an important thing that's missing from a lot of people. I mean, they can do perfect technique and all this, but they don't have the mindset to really survive maybe in a real situation.
yeah, yeah, that's for sure. I can totally relate. I famously said that I've been in about a handful of tournaments and I got disqualified in every one. And just like you, there was a lot of things that I was in open tournaments, and a lot of the things that we would do in house. You weren't allowed at the tournaments. The groin kicks and some of the head contact and face contact that we would do all day long at our local school. Go out to these open tournaments, and oh well, we can't do that. And the kind of the body and the mind and how you train take over, and it was always hard for me to not do certain things. And uh, I always felt it was kind of weird that it's like, well, we're training in a combat system, but yet we can't hit to the head or things like that. So yeah, I can I can relate to that. Um, and then there was another point, and of course now it's just slipping my mind, but I guess we'll come we'll come back to that as soon as I
Well,
can think
while
of
you're
it.
thinking about that, I just mentioned something else about Mr. Sepulveda, and if you want to get on the wrong side of him, go online and post something bad about another system or another Kempoist, or they're doing it wrong. It should be this way, and he's totally against that. He doesn't want to see that, and he welcomes everybody that wants to participate.
Yeah, there's unfortunately there's a lot of that in the Kempo world, not just the Kempo world, I guess all martial arts, but Kempo definitely gets a lot of the people that are have their own opinions about how things should be done. And it always strikes me as funny is that Ed Parker was so known for not just constantly changing and evolving the system, and wasn't so much into the traditional side of it, but yet there's a lot of people in the Kempo world that are like, oh, well, that's not the way Ed Parker did it, or that's not the way Ed Parker told me. And it's like, well, the system is constantly evolving. The system welcomes change, and not just for the sake of changing, but if things don't work a certain way, or just the environment in itself. With a previous guest, we were talking about, well, people don't carry around swords, so maybe we don't need to work the sword techniques, sword defense techniques, so much as we might a knife, or a gun or something like that. And it's not because, oh well, those techniques are worthless, but there's just, you're less likely to encounter someone with a sword. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, the system has to change, or uh, one of the things that stuck out to me as, so I started in a system that I started in a Kempo school that was essentially that of the Tracy's curriculum, and we did the form Mass Attack. And in Mass Attack, in the beginning of Mass Attack, at least the way I was told, one of the first movements that you do kind of simulates, uh, uh, in the olden days, they had the big kimonos and everything, and you're doing this movement that's kind of pressing the kimono out of the way. And it's like, well, we don't we don't wear those. We got jeans and t-shirt, and so that kind of movement is not particularly necessary at these points. So yeah, things change, and we're supposed to change and evolve it, and make it to where it works best for us. So yeah, I can see that. So going back with the military side. Um I am an army guy. And I remember being in basic training, and we're doing the hand to hand stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, like this is silly. Like I'm a Kempo guy, and the Kempo the Kempo works so much better. So I'm curious, did you have any was there anything like that during your Marine Corps time? Any kind of feelings of, hey, this could be so much better, or anything like that?
Well, of course, we're talking 60s, Vietnam era. Um, yeah, they had, it's kind of like you see in the old kung fu movies. They had a guy up on the platform, and there was a whole bunch of men out there, and did a lot of standing there, punching and that sort of thing. Um, but they did teach you like killing techniques and things that you do, and so I think that made a big impression. And you had to do fighting, with people, pugil sticks and things like that. So you had to do combat type of activities to get you ready for that. So, but yeah, I think everybody will tell you if they're honest about it. The SEALs are great, and the recon is great. All these people are great to do these, amazing things. But generally, they're not just doing what they learn in the service. They almost all take additional training with other people and add to it. And I think that's the way I felt about it too. I felt like, well, this is a good starting point, and mentally a good starting point. And then you need other skills to add to that.
Gotcha. So so now with the let's kind of move on to the teaching side of it. When did you get involved with the teaching, and was that something that you were always interested in, or was it thrust upon you? And how did that start out?
Well, of course, in the military, you're always teaching somebody, but the people below you, so they can take your place if something happens to you. So you're always teaching. I always liked that part of it. Um, and then when I started teaching as a student, you teach the belts below you. I discovered that I really enjoyed doing that. And so, as opposed to just being just a student, for the activity or whatever, I decided to work on becoming a teacher, being a accredited teacher. So that's why I continued on after black belt, and beyond that. Also, I am a teacher. I actually teach in the public school system. So I have that background as well. But the firearms training I do is teach. Everything I'm doing pretty much is teaching. And you enjoy that when you see someone starting with no knowledge about a subject, and then you can, bring them along, and they're happy with it. But I like the saying, you should be happy with yourself but not satisfied. And that's kind of how I like to talk to students. That was okay, but you could be better. You know. So yeah, I enjoy that. I think I wouldn't be still doing it if I didn't like it as much as I do.
Very nice. Now, with your training, is there anything that you maybe used to do in your training that you wish would kind of make a comeback, and vice versa? Are there any things that you do now in the training that you wish you would have done in your earlier days of training and teaching?
Wow. I think I'm pretty much doing everything that I've always done. Um, the sparring is an issue. I was always told by my instructors that, different schools do different things. Some focus on, basics. Some focus on uh, forms. They really do forms. They're great. Or tournaments. Um, and I was always told that I had a fighting school. Everybody fought, and everybody went hard. We had sparring. It wasn't any point sparring. It's just continuous till you can't fight anymore. You fight for people 15, 20 minutes with no bells or anything, and that was a good foundation. I sparred, every week for years and years. I miss that. I can't do that like I used to because I'm old and broken. But I miss that part of it. But we have sparring every week, and it's a regular part of our curriculum.
Yeah, the sparring aspect is definitely something that I think a lot of schools are maybe I'll use the term a little soft, and uh, these days, I mean, I always say that it's we need to be in kind of in between. We had the blood and guts days back in the day, and then we have today where not so much of that. And when I started, we were kind of in that in between phase. We beat up on each other a little bit, but not too much most of the time. But weren't like a lot of schools today where oh, it's sparring class time, and all of a sudden everybody has everything, other things to do, other things to be, other appointments. Oh, I forgot my dentist appointment, and so now I can't spar. And I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons to train in martial arts, but I think in the at the kind of the core of it is that this is for combat, this is for self-defense, this is for fighting. And if you don't have any kind of experience with hitting someone and being hit and all of that, then I think you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, especially in an art where like kempo, where the focus is self-defense, is fighting, is that sort of thing. And so if you're not getting that body time, that I think that really hurts the training. And so yeah, gotta get in there, get in the ring, and uh, test your skills, push yourself a little bit, and good things will come from that.
Well, I've talked to people that say, Well, at our school, the sparring was optional, and and I couldn't see promoting someone to a black belt who wasn't sparring, and so and I have a lot of times we'll have students come in from a different system, and they looking to do something new, or maybe they even realize that there's some holes in their training, and they want to cross train. And I think cross training is great. You should do that. And and they say, oh yeah, I sparred all the time, and then we put them out there and they can't spar at all, or they say, well, we didn't really do it. It was optional. And these are like ranked students, and that just kind of struck me as odd. But it's happened a number of times where people had second black or something, and they never did any sparring, or they never did any forms.
Yeah, although the belt colors show, that doesn't mean that you know. So yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, in the Kempo world, there's a lot of rank chasing, and oh well, this person or that person was my teacher, and I've got this much red in my belt and all that stuff like that. But yet, have not put that in the application, or not. Really promoting the art. They're just trying to promote themselves, and I I get the wanting to boost yourself up, and say good things about yourself, but at the same time, the truth of your training is going to come out on the mats and in the streets, and uh, any kind of particular place where you have to apply it. So yeah, that's it's always funny to me because I sometimes I feel like, I mean, I've been formally in the martial arts uh, since the early '90s, and I still, even with all this time, I still kind of feel I have the imposter syndrome, sort of mentality, and it always feels crazy to me that there are people out there that are willing to take a certain rank or something, yet don't really have the skills to back them up, and that I couldn't imagine wanting to take a belt or something like that, and have someone say, okay, yeah, you're this level, and yet I don't spar, or I don't do this thing, or I don't know that thing, or it's, yeah, I don't know. It's funny to me, but that's the world that we live in. So
And I know, like in our particular group that I'm in, this, I guess the motto, if you want to say it, is everybody trains. And so, because you go places where, this, like the old kung fu movies, the guy sits up on the platform drinking tea, and he just watches. And we don't want those people. We want the people that want to get out there, and they're always still training, and so that's important. You have to be able to get out there and do it.
exactly. So something that I've been asking my guest is, since there isn't a universal standard for what it means to be a black belt, what it takes to earn a black belt, and not just in Kempo, but in all the martial arts, I've been asking to kind of get an idea of what each individual person thinks about what it means to be a black belt, what it takes to earn a black belt, what after you've achieved a black belt, what it means to continue to represent having a black belt. And of course, there's no right or wrong answers or anything. It's all very individual and very personal. But I'm curious as to what your thoughts are around the coveted black belt title. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, you've obviously made a journey that took a long time and a lot of effort for people to get attain a black belt. There's that physical side to doing whatever the material is in the system, and more importantly is how you improve yourself as a person. I think that's, to me, when you get to be fifth degree, then you're supposedly a master. And but really, I think it's what you do as you get in the higher ranks, what you give back to the community, not just in the teaching. Obviously, teaching is a big part of it because you have to pass on what you've learned. Otherwise, nobody will remember. But what can you do for your community? What have you done for other people? What kind of example can you set to your students and people in the community if they think of you as a good individual, a good person? That's just as important. I know Bob White he's passed away now, but his studio had a big charity for kids for years and years and years. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it wasn't a profit-making venture for him. He just wanted to give back to the community. And you need those kind of black belts.
Exactly. Very nice, very nice. So now, since you've been in the arts for a minute or two, I'm curious. What are your thoughts about kind of the future of Kempo? Where would you like to? Where do you see it heading? Where would you like to see it go? Since there's this increase in popularity for things like MMA and the UFC and that sort of things. And from my point of view, I've seen this. We're getting away from. I like to say like the Mr. Miyagi days of karate training, martial arts training, and that there is that I don't know. I guess discipline and humbleness and respect. I mean, there's a lot of the UFC type things where they're cussing at each other and talking bad about each other and kind of doing all this nonsense and just looking at things like the UFC, the early UFC, when people would come into the octagon, a lot of times they would bow and things like that. And now it's like people are just kind of walking in and flipping each other off and things like that. So I'm just curious as to where do you see the future of Kempo and where would you like to see it head?
Well, I guess I would say I would just like to see it continue being taught, like the whole system pretty much being taught, so that you have the complete picture of it. Sometimes, the economics can get involved in all the systems where, they don't want to make you spar because, people quit if they have to spar. People don't want to spend 2 or 3 years or maybe more achieving rank, so they make it shorter, to make it easier for their studio. I understand that as a business, but I just like to see Ed Parker's vision, which was to constantly improve, change, adapt. Well, that's kind of a Marine Corps thing, adapt, overcome, and improvise. So probably why I like Kempo so much. But yeah, UFC, it's changed so much. The first season was really a bloodbath, and they didn't have weight classes or anything, and there was some Kempo guys that were fighting back then. But it's changed a lot, and kind of like WWE kind of attitude, yeah. So I used to watch it, but we used to have watching parties when it first was on years ago. And then after a while, you go, well, gee, they're doing all these things wrong. We would never do that or something, And so I don't really watch it anymore. But so I guess I didn't really realize it had done kind of morphed into the old-fashioned wrestling kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice. All right. So since as of our time recording here, I recently went through some testing. So I'm curious, in your time training, was there I guess any particular testing moments that stood out for you, whether you were testing yourself or testing a student, that maybe you'd want to share, maybe a hardest test that you were a part of, or anything like that.
Let's see. I guess I'd have to say I went to a test. I was testing for fifth degree, and all the people testing were high. Like probably fourth and above. So it was a senior kind of test, and it was a really long test. We had a big board of you know high-ranking people there, and I felt pretty good about the test. Because I was teaching every day, and I was pretty active. And anyway, we had to do all these things, and it was a long test. And then there was probably 25 people there testing, and we go through this whole test and get done, and then I didn't get promoted, and I was I was I was kind of shocked, like wow, I thought I was ready, and so that was a good lesson. People assume, maybe not purposely, but that well, if I show up, we're going to get promoted, and I didn't, and I had probably a couple years before I retested. So I think that was a good learning experience.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Would you care to share what the reasoning behind that was, or?
Well, if I was honest with myself, I know I made some mistakes that I wouldn't normally make. It was in a different studio, a different city, so it was a different environment. But really, I can't. Uh, I guess there was enough things that the people didn't think I was ready, so I have to rely on their judgment.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. So in our curriculum, we test about every kind of halfway in between belts, and uh, for a stripe. And for me, the stripe tests are always harder than the belt test, because I always feel, I don't know. I kind of feel like I have the material, except of course for the terminology, which is my kryptonite. I'm terrible about working on my terminology and sayings and pledges and things like that. So that, of course, that I already know that I'm not going to do well on those parts. I really need to fix that. But I don't know. I kind of always have this sense that I know the material in time for the stripe test, and I usually don't do so well on on the stripe test. I think let me see. I think I failed my purple stripe test. This is There were a couple of points where I mean, I think one of the freestyle, I completely, it was just completely not in in my head of what moves I was supposed to do. And one of the forms I completely butchered, and yeah, it was pretty much a nightmare. So but it lets me know exactly kind of where I stand. And then so then I really put in the extra effort for the full belt test, and usually do a lot better. But yeah, there's always room for improvement. So that's part of the learning. That's part of the growing, and that's how it goes. So very nice, very nice. All right, so we're going to move into what I call our lightning round here. So I have a few little questions for you as we head towards wrapping up our time today. So the very first question is: do you have a favorite technique?
A favorite technique. Wow.
And I get that's
Favorite.
difficult for Kempo folk. It's like trying to pick your favorite child, but
Yeah. I would. I'll say fatal deviation.
oh, very nice, very nice. I think that one's been brought up a few times, so I definitely think it's uh, definitely beloved beloved among folk there. Any particular reason why that one?
It's simple. It's based on yellow belt techniques, but you learn it later on, and it's a very practical uh, sequence.
Very nice, very nice. I like it. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite form and or set?
Favorite one. Well, I would say I want to say six, form six,
Yeah,
because
very
there's so
nice.
much motion involved.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's one that gets a lot of love around here as well. So very nice. I like it. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite weapon?
Well, I would say favorite weapon. Gosh, I like whatever's available. you
Very
know,
nice. Yeah, yeah. No, if it's around, then yeah, that makes it a makes it a good one at the time when you need it. So yeah, I like it. There's no wrong answers here, so that's perfect. I like it. All right. Next question. If there's anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, besides Ed Parker, who would that be?
well, I'm training with them now. Lucky for me.
Very nice, very nice. And that's Mr. Swoda, I
Yeah.
assume. Okay. Very nice. Yes. Yes. No, that's a great answer. Great person to train with. So yeah, I like that. All right. Next question. Uh, what is something that always motivates you to train, and or something that you'd like to put out there for others to motivate them to train? So I use the example of the movie Rocky Four. He's out there in the snow and running and all that, which is perfectly timed for our time as we're recording here. We're dealing with snowpocalypse, ice mageddon here in Texas at this time. So, but yeah, anytime I see that training montage scene in Rocky Four, what that always gets me hyped up and ready to go out and hit the mats and hit the academy and go train. So. What is something like that for you, and or something you'd like to put out for others to motivate them to train?
Well, um, I would say everybody probably says this. The longest journey begins with but a single step, and you know, you just have to keep moving. And in the Marine Corps, they say it's one step in front of another. You're on a 20-mile march. You just keep going, and you'll get there.
Yeah, no, that is very true. You gotta take that first step and get out there. And something that my jujitsu coach has said is we gotta turn one day into day one, and that is huge, especially being the beginning of the year here. There's a lot of folks that are like, oh, like new year, new me, and I'm gonna do all this stuff and uh, uh, the New Year's resolutions and that sort of thing. And then by before February rolls around, then they've gone back to the old me. It turns out the new me is just the old me. So yeah, I gotta get out there and get started and just get out there and get to training. So very nice, very nice. All right. So we are now at our final piece of business for our time today, and that is the shameless self promotion. So you can plug anything that you want, or if there's anything that we hadn't covered that you wanted to make sure to get out there, you now have the floor, and then we'll close out our time from there.
Well, I just encourage people to get out and train. We're training in Colleyville at the rec center, and we're teaching self-defense classes as well as the Kempo curriculum and some Eskrima and some ground fighting in our curriculum there. Um, so yeah, I would just say if people are interested in real practical self-defense, especially if they have kids that are going off to college, we have a program just for that and get them ready to be on their own.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to be on and sharing your story here and getting to chat some Kempo and excited for to get this out for others to check out and yeah, I've enjoyed getting to train with you a little bit. I know I need to come back by and do some more work with y'all. Just so many things to do and so little time, but I will definitely work on coming by in the not too distant future. And of course, you have the open invitation to be on any time. So if there's anything that's going on that you want to share, or we'll get into other topics and stuff. So yeah, you're welcome to be on. And yeah, I just once again thank you for your time and stay warm and don't get iced out. And yeah, we will talk again soon. So thank you.
All right, thank you.